Have you ever played a bullet game so good you classify it as Immortal? Well, you are in for a treat, because Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, may have just done that. Before we introduce the players, let's set the scene. This was a bullet game, 1 minute per side, which was played on lichess. Magnus Carlsen played Thomas Beerdsen. They have played so many games. The score is 55-16 in Carlsen's favour. That means they have played a whopping 71 games against each other. Wow, imagine that. Thomas Beerdsen has played 71 games against a world champion on lichess. By the way, why is lichess called lichess? Here's the reason. Lichess is a combination of live, light, Libra. It is pronounced lichess. Live because games are played and watched in real time 24/7. Light and Libra for the fact that lichess is open source and unencumbered by junk that plagues other websites. Let's introduce players. Magnus Carlsen is 30 years old. On lichess, he has the username Dr. Nickerstein, which I think means he is sober. He has another account called Dr. Drunkenstein, which he plays on when he is not sober. Magnus's rating on lichess is 3083. Thomas Beerdsen is an IM, 22 years old, from the Netherlands. His lichess rating is 2814. In classical chess, his peak rating is 2497. Magnus Carlsen has white, Thomas Beerdsen has black. The game began c4, g6, d4, c5. Carlsen can push, but chooses to defend with knight f3. Pair of pawns come off, bishop to g7, e4. White now gets a bind in the centre. c4 and e4 pawns clamping down on this square d5. This is a nice way to play as white. You are controlling a key central square with both pawns. Beerdsen gets his queen out early to attack the knight. In the game, knight b3 was played, but at the end there will be a quiz, and I'm going to have a look at knight b5 as one of the bonus variations. This game was a bullet game that featured on lichess. Knight back to b3. Notice queen, bishop are both attacking this pawn. That's why Carlsen chooses to move the knight here to block the queen attacking b2. a5, Beerdsen is playing very directly. He wants to attack that knight straight away and then put pressure on the b2 pawn. Bishop e3 attacking the queen. Queen b4 check. Bishop back to d2. Queen b6. Bishop e3, no way, that will lead to a repetition. One option here is knight d2. If you play a4, there's a really nice move here for white. Can you see it? This queen is in white's position, but it is too far advanced. Bishop c5 just traps the queen. Every square is taken. This square is taken by the knight. Pawn, pawn. This bishop is defended by the knight. Can't take this because of this bishop. After knight d2, black could grab this pawn with bishop takes b2, but just rook b1. Bishop c3, bishop e2, and white is just much better. Look at white's position. Every piece is out. White is ready to castle. Black only has the queen and bishop out. The king is still in the middle. Queen back to b6, bishop c3, contesting this diagonal. Bishop for bishop, is it a fair trade? Yes, but then black's king will be very weak. In the game, Thomas played knight f6. Just to show you, this is a terrible decision because after this, knight, pawn, pawn, control this square. Notice the yellow squares around the black king, full of holes, dark squares as holes. Also, this knight is going to come into d5. You can't play knight f6, you just get kicked away. That's why Thomas made the correct decision to keep the bishop on by blocking the white bishop attacking blacks. c5, queen e6, very strange square for the queen, but Thomas has a clear idea. Black has two pieces now on this pawn. Carlsen defends knight d2. A normal way to defend would just to play f3, and after castle you can get the bishop out, but you can actually get the knight out first, which is a really cool idea. You deliberately put the knight on the edge, then you get the bishop out with tempo. When the bishop comes here, it attacks the queen, then you can castle. So pretty weird move, knight a3. It's not misplaced because it helps the bishop come out, but then this knight can come in the game, maybe to b5. b5 is a great square for the knight because there's no pawn here, you can't kick it away. Knight d2 played by Magnus. Knight takes e4. Here the chaos begins. This is the reason I wanted to analyze this amazing bullet game. Bishop takes bishop, knight c3, check. Discovered check from the queen onto the king. But what is happening here? This knight is attacking the queen. He blocks with the bishop. Knight takes queen, bishop takes rook. Rarely do you see this bishop in the corner. This knight is trapped. Notice this knight cannot take this pawn because this bishop is actually protecting it. Black now takes the other pawn. Knight takes f2. King takes f2. If it's white's move, this bishop needs to get back in the game with bishop c3. This is why black blocks with f6. Rook e1. Rook is indirectly facing the king. Magnus is seeing many moves ahead. If the bishop, queen, pawn come off the e-file, then white's rook is well placed, checking the king. Queen back to g8. Have you ever seen a position like this? Look at all of black's pieces. It's like black is setting up his pieces ready for the next game. All of the pieces are on the back. Another option besides queen back is just to get the king out the way, maybe to d8 or to f8. Why? Because this rook is on the e-file. So just sidestep your king and then try and get your pieces out. Instead of going bishop grabbing. Queen g8 played. Magnus now tries to get the maximum. Because this bishop is trapped, you might as well get a pawn. Notice, do you remember there was a black knight here that was trapped, so it might as well get the maximum, which is to take a pawn. Bishop takes pawn. Queen f7. You cannot play this because the e-file opens up tremendously in white's favour. White now plays a discovered check, bishop c4, game over. Check from the rook, but this bishop attacks the queen. The queen will drop. Bishop takes f6, queen f7, pinning the bishop against the king. White now brings more pieces into the attack with knight e4. Great move, because you can't play this because knight d6 check, winning the queen. White is taking over. Knight e4 played, king out the way. But king g1, white does the same. Notice, even though black has slid to the right, white has also done the same. He has also slid to the right. But then the rook can come to f1. It's like overall nothing has changed, because white's plan is still to get the rook against the king. King g1 played by Magnus. Take, knight in, queen out. Bishop c4, queen h5. White has 3 pieces in the attack. Knight, bishop, rook. Black has done nothing with his pieces on the left. The queen is the only piece out. Notice this queen could not take this pawn, defended by the knight. Pause the video now or let the timer run. Can you find checkmate in 3 moves? The first move is rook e8 check. Let's play it out. I'm going to draw in the arrows to test your calculating ability. Rook e8 check. The king can only go here. Now the rook has to go to g8 check, flushing the king out to h6. Mate in 1 with the knight because the king can actually come out here. So knight f7 stops that, checking the king and stopping the king escaping to g5. Let's play it out. Rook e8 check. All the red arrows show all the squares the king cannot go to. It can only go to g7. Rook g8 check. The king cannot go to any red arrow. Can't go here because of knight and bishop. King can only come out. Checkmate in 1. Very beautiful. Knight f7. Knight checks the king. Can't go there. The king is just blocked in by his own pieces. But in the game, Magnus didn't actually see this. Rook e7 check played. King out. Bishop g8. Bishop, rook combine together to attack this pawn. Thomas now played queen g4. Even though Magnus missed mate in 3, he is about to lead his opponent into a deep dark forest, leading to mate in 8. Let's play it. It's very difficult to see all the moves, but if every move is a check, it's going to be mate very soon. Firstly, let's take the pawn with check. King g5, h4 check. King f4. How else to check this king? Let's bring in the other rook. Rook to f1 check. King e3. How to check this king? No need to bring the knight yet. Let's bring this rook back because it's doing nothing on this square. Rook e7 check. King d3. This king is on a light square. Time to bring in this bishop back because it's doing nothing. Bishop c4 check. King c2. King now attacks that pawn. Let's check again with rook f2. If the king tries to run away, there will be mate in 2. Pause the video now or let the timer run. Can you find it? Bring the other rook back. Rook e1. The king takes this, then the rook can come to a1. It's so weird to have the king in a corner like this. Knight defends rook. King cannot take knight due to the bishop. King cannot take pawn due to that rook. But Thomas played king to the center. After rook f2 check, king d1. In this position, there is checkmate in one move. Rook d2. King cannot go anywhere. Can't go here due to that rook. Can't go to c1 due to that knight. That was mate in 1, but it doesn't really matter because Carlsen played mate in 2. He played rook e1 check first, just sacrificing the rook, bringing the king closer to the right. Checkmate in one move. Rook f1. The king cannot go d2 due to the knight. Can't go e2 due to the bishop. Can't go here because of the rook. Can't go to left. Time for a quiz. In this position, Magnus played knight b3 in the game, but you remember, what was another option for white? This knight can actually go to b5. This is the beginning of one bonus variation. If you kick the knight away, you don't have to move the knight. You can play bishop e3 attacking the queen. If check, then this knight can come back to c3. Pretty strange to have a couple of knights like this defending each other. White's just going to complete his development. Bishop here, castle, and white still has a grip on the d5 square, this bind. After knight b5, here is another bonus variation. If knight f6, knight c3, a6, bishop still to e3. If queen a5, white can now hit with this amazing move b4. The point is, you can't take because knight c7 check will pick up the rook. If black goes back, e5, now you push in the center, take, and a brilliant move, knight d5. The point is, the knight and bishop now control b6. So white is going to go knight c7 check. In the meantime, you can play bishop takes rook, but then queen takes bishop. Then this queen is attacking the rook. And meanwhile, white still has this threat. Queen b4 check. Played in the game, Magnus played bishop d2. But after knight d2 and a4, do you remember? There's a brilliant move here for white. How to continue? Notice the queen is running out of squares, so after bishop c5, you just trap the queen. 3 pieces in the attack, black has no defenders. Can you find mate in 3, which Magnus actually missed in this bullet game? First move, rook e8 check. King has to go here. Then rook g8 check. King has to come out, and then knight f7 mate. Because the knight here checks the king, but it also guards this square. Let's just play it out. Check, king g7, check, king up, and knight f7 is mate. The final tactical sequence. Even though Magnus missed mate in 3, he actually delivered mate in 8. Can you see all the way? This exercise really tests your calculating ability. Let's run through it together. I will draw in all the arrows and then we will play it out. See how far you can calculate. Rook takes h7 check. King has to come out. Then h4 check. King comes to f4. How else to check this king? The rook can come in the game. Rook f1 check. King e3. Notice this rook has checked the king. Time to bring the rook back. Rook now checks the king. King goes to d3. Notice the king is on a light square. What's another way to check this king? You need to bring back the bishop, which is on a light square. Bishop to c4, check. King to c2. The king is now on the second rank. Can we find another way to check the king? At the same time, guarding this pawn, we go rook f2, check. King d1. We're going to play this out now, and then there will be either mate in 1 or mate in 2. Let's play it. Rook takes h7 check, king g5, h4 check, king f4, rook f1 check, king e3, rook e7 check, king d3, bishop c4 check, king c2, rook f2 check. King goes to d1, mate in 1, rook d2. This is what Magnus missed, but he played mate in 2 instead. He just brought the rook back, sacrificing itself. Take and then rook f1 is mate. There is no exit square. Instead of going for mate in 3, Magnus led the king into a deep dark forest, delivering mate in 8. Thank you for watching all the way until the end. I hope you enjoyed the quiz. If you enjoyed this video, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel at the same time. Make sure you hit that bell, then YouTube will let you know when I release a new video. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you later.